Welcome to 99th Monkey Liberty News for Wednesday, February 19th, 2014. The first article that I have to look at this morning is from IntelliHub. The 14,000 oil spills in America that nobody is talking about. And scrolling down, nearly every day there is a new environmental disaster. And this is based on some work that Abby Martin did. Abby Martin goes over updates to the chemical spill in West Virginia and the coal ash spill in North Carolina, exposing the human and environmental impact as well as the lack of accountability that accompanies tens of thousands of similar ecological catastrophes that occur in the U.S. every year due to the U.S. addiction to fossil fuel. And he has the RT video here, which my flash player has crashed, so you can't see the image that's part of that video, but interesting information certainly. And children exposed to more brain damaging chemicals than scientists thought. This is an article from RT. But you know, it's okay if your children are exposed to brain-damaging chemicals and there are constant toxic waste spills, because, hey, they're going to give you free pizza. From Mail Online, Chevron apologizes to residents of small town after their fracking well exploded and burned for 5 days, leaving one dead, with a coupon for free pizza. And I wonder if they had to, sign some kind of a waiver when they got their coupon that they would never file a lawsuit if their hair started to fall out or their teeth started to fall out or they started to bleed through their pores. This is just a shocking answer to this problem. And this shows really the mentality of these people. Hey, we're going to ruin your town, destroy the place you live in, but we'll spring for pizza. Enjoy that. Here from New York News and Politics, the tweet that I saw for this just caught my eye. 1% jokes and plutocrats in drag, what I saw when I crashed a Wall Street secret society. And this is just an interesting article, nothing earth-shaking, just kind of a reminder that Eyes Wide Shut is really not all that far out there, that these people do behave quite poorly at times, under the cover of night, of course. Here from IntelliHub, 8th international banker to die in a month jumps off building in China. And this article actually has the list of the string of suspicious banker deaths. And this most recent one, 33-year-old banker in Hong Kong, jumped from the J.P. Morgan HQ in Hong Kong this week. Benjamin Fulford in his blog this week wrote that the banker deaths are because these guys wanted to be whistleblowers, and of course the secrets that they knew couldn't be permitted to come out, so they died instead. Another article, though, from IntelliHub about the same idea: dead bankers, the economic collapse, and the end of humanity. I think that's a bit too dramatic, but certainly there is something going on here, and hopefully, even in spite of these deaths, the truth will come out in full, and justice will be served. Just because the news has been so dark lately, and I kind of want to put a spin on this, and I think Don is going to have some comments about this too. Just the news that we look at every day, there are so many bad people and so much is wrong, and sometimes it feels overwhelming. You see these guys who are reputed to, the statements made by people who seem to know, and Fulford had some contacts in MI5, is that these bankers are being killed so that they can't be whistleblowers. And at times, the whole thing becomes overwhelming, and it seems as if those who are in power are never going to relinquish their positions. And the fact that many of us are coming to these liberty and truther alternative news positions because we ourselves have been wounded by the system, and we've been victimized. I mean, it's, I don't want to think of myself as a victim, but we have been victimized by these people. We have been taken advantage of and abused. And we've lost, homes in foreclosure. We've been maligned by the IRS. We've had much taken away from us through, the three I's: IRS, interest rates, and inflation. We've suffered losses. So we see ourselves and compare ourselves with these people who are in positions of seats of power, and they seem invulnerable. So I kind of wanted to add some perspective to that. Looking back at David in the Old Testament, who Saul, the king, tried to kill David many times, just had this irrational hatred for David and started throwing spears at him, and God protected David, and David escaped. So David was in the wilderness hiding from Saul, the king, because the king was trying to kill him. How relative is that to some of the things that many of us experience? I mean, not that they're trying to kill us directly the way Saul was trying to kill David, but GMOs and toxic spills and radiation from Fukushima. We're under this constant barrage. The NSA is taking our data, spying on us constantly. We are under siege to a large extent, and David was under siege in the wilderness, running away from Saul. And I just want to put this perspective on it. David therefore departed from there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. So when his brothers and all his father's house heard it, they went down there to him. And everyone who was in distress, everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was discontented gathered to him. So he became captain over them. And there were about 400 men with him. And, at the time, these guys probably just felt like a bunch of losers. But as it turned out, of course, Saul was killed in a battle, and David became the next king, and these men were drawn with David, their leader, into a position of greatness and leadership. So at times it might appear that we are losing the battle. At times it might appear that, the bad guys are triumphing. And certainly because many of us are, you might as well read this. Anyone who was being spied on was stressed out from being spied on by the NSA. Everyone who had asthma because of chemtrails. Everyone who lost their house in a foreclosure. Everyone who was being pursued by the IRS. Might as well read it like that, because those are the same kinds of issues that these people were experiencing who joined David in the wilderness and waited for the old evil leadership to fall from power.
Yeah, and it's the people that don't feel like they have anything to lose that are the ones that are the most prepared to fight. It's when the Nazis came into France, the people that had large estates, they basically felt like they couldn't flee, and they stayed to try to hold on to their belongings. But those are the people that died, because the Nazis simply came in there with guns and blew them away and then took over their estates. So the people that went and hid in the forests, those are the people that survived and became a part of the resistance. And I fear we're living in a similar time, and maybe I shouldn't say fear, but that is what is often the predominant emotion. We need to be able to deal with that. And a lot of times people deal with that fear the wrong way by making a deal with the enemy that they think keeps them safe. I want to read a short paragraph here. Happens to be out of a my Revival Bible, and it's not directly based on the scripture, but so I won't even need to include that. But it's just a historical note. Years ago, the Chinese built the famous Great Wall of China to protect them from the barbaric hordes from the north. It was so high they knew no one could climb it, and so thick no one could break it down. But during the first 100 years of the wall's existence, China was invaded 3 times. Not once did the barbaric hordes break down the wall or climb over the top. Each time they bribed the gatekeeper and marched right through the gates. And then it goes on to say, your eyes and ears and mind are the gatekeepers of your heart, and guard them. And that's true. And but that Christian pietism can blind you. Focusing on that individual application can blind you to the bigger picture, in which that is exactly what's happened to the United States. The gatekeepers who were supposed to be our representatives in government sold out to a financial system that benefited the financial elite, who have taken over and now completely own Congress, the president, the Supreme Court, so that it no longer represents the people. And that's how the enemy got through the gates, was through the monetary system, through bribery. And we need to be able to recognize that and deal with it, and not try to make deals with it out of fear.
And as far as coming in through the gate, even we as people who are struggling for liberty and justice can permit some of these things into our lives, open our gates, so to speak. And I just as a reminder, I mean, sometimes Christians speak about the eye gate and the ear gate, like what we see and what we hear. Those things come into our spirits and become a part of us. And this is a less Christian, more metaphysical view of that. You become what you behold in your mind, the law of attraction. But there is actually a Christian principle of this too, that is taught, that you become what you behold. And if we're constantly looking at the darkness and constantly fretting and thinking about how what Don just stated, how these people have entered our country and our lives and forced themselves upon us, and if we're constantly thinking about what they do behind closed doors and their their satanic rituals and everything that they do, we can tend to actually lose a part of who we are, and we begin to slide toward that darkness. I think it's not something that automatically happens, but I certainly think that it's something that we need to be aware of and guard against.
Yeah, well, we can't be in denial. I think that there's a fine line there, or a balance to be kept. We have to, in order to fix the problem, we need to know what the problem is, but we can't be overcome by the problem. We can't think it's inevitable. So we need to actually use the knowledge of the enemy's strategy to stir us up, because we know who the victor is. We know that Christ has won the battle, and whether or not we are victorious in the current engagement that we're in, we know that it's worth fighting. We know that there is no greater cause than to fight for liberty and freedom and justice. That is really the earthly kingdom come, thy will be done, as on earth as it is in heaven. That's really the only thing worth fighting for here. And the weapons of warfare are not carnal. They're mighty for the pulling down of strongholds. But that doesn't mean we don't engage in the world. In fact, it means we do engage. It means we occupy until he comes. And he is coming for a victorious, overcoming bride. Okay, that's my sermon.
Well, and I have this Bible verse just to keep things in balance, because we do have to contend with these ideas. I think that it's important for us to be well versed enough in these ideas to knowing what's going on in the world, so that we can talk to people about it and help to wake more people up, and especially the people, as you know, we mentioned that like the people who are like David's men, who have been disenfranchised. I think it's a lot easier for disenfranchised people to wake up and be able to see what is really going on in what the controllers are doing to us and taking from us.
Yeah, because ultimately, if the people that have everything going okay for them, they don't know it by and large, but they've been bribed by the system. They have gone along with something that is not good. They may have been deceived into thinking this is the old America when it isn't anymore, and they don't know any better. But ultimately, they've taken a bribe. And once they've taken the bribe, the enemy has already entered in through the gates and is in control, whether they know it or not. So it's the people that have been taken advantage of and know it that are ready to join the battle.
Absolutely. But just to help keep things in perspective, if you start to feel overwhelmed, and I think I've even put this scripture in a video before, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. So in balancing out, you know, we have to spend some time thinking, processing, mentally filing what's going on in the world, so that we're well versed, we can talk about those things. But if we step away, give ourselves a break, and not let them be certainly our entire focus, but see the good around us too, the beauty of nature, and just some of the lovely things that God has placed in our lives, for which we can be thankful.
Absolutely.
And just in some degree of help with that, these materials from Ian Clayton, Son of Thunder, these are all free downloads. And if we can get God's perspective, see things, what's happening from a heavenly perspective, that can certainly give us a large infusion of hope and shift our perspective to God's perspective and see victory.
Yeah, ultimately you want to spend a lot more time praising God and enjoying His love, peace, and joy than you spend focusing on the enemy, because the joy of the Lord is our strength, and the Lord sits in the heavens and laughs. His victory is sure. These are momentary light afflictions, and we gain that true perspective when we spend time in His presence and enjoying Him.
Absolutely. And for a less spiritual, more practical look at some things that are good and true and of good report and encouraging, here is a YouTube channel called A Green Road Project. And in light of so many of the toxins and issues with energy production, oil spills, so on and so forth, there is a group of people who are trying to come up with energy solutions that will be helpful. And I became aware of this channel because we have a video about Brown's gas, and this channel posted a comment on one of our Brown's gas videos. So they are aware of Brown's gas. They are working as a group to promote truly clean and free energy. So it's good stuff.
and this really helps to take away the fear from the whole Fukushima radiation event, and it is scary, but there is a solution, and it really is work. It really does work. It has been proven. It's not only the cannabis that can remove radioactivity, that is also established, but the whole Brown's gas being able to actually make radioactive waste not radioactive anymore. Why isn't that happening? Well, because the powers that be want destruction. Those powers, from some information we have, are on their last legs, nearly overthrown, but we're not quite there yet. So yes, please pray for technology like this to actually begin to be used for good. We will be able to come into a new period of human thriving productivity if all of the technology that is available can find its way out of the dungeons where it's being held captive.
Absolutely. So, with that bit of good news, we do thank you for tuning in for today's 99th Monkey Liberty News. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Live long and prosper.
Hoping that you will love one another, take care, and insist on liberty.